Um, when racial stereotypes are used, it's uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable to watch because I know I'm going to sound like John Terry, and if you're not an English football fan, that means nothing. I have black friends, but it's the stereotypes. It just makes me uncomfortable to watch, and it would make me uncomfortable to watch if it was a sexist storyline or a racist storyline or anything like that. Anything that's uncomfortable is uncomfortable. Going back to watch a lot of the Attitude Era stuff is now incredibly uncomfortable to watch. And when I was a 16-year-old boy, sure, watching women in their underwear wrestling was great. But now it's like, well, I'm a dad. I've got a daughter. I don't want her to watch that. So if I'm to put myself into the mindset of a black guy with a black kid watching wrestling and seeing racist storylines, I'd feel exactly the same way. I wouldn't want that to be what they're watching and what they're portrayed and what they see this company doing or any company doing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fucked up. Like, basically it's, why do we have to be thugging and bugging to be representative or be like, considered as a serious threat? Um, like with New Jack, like New Jack was a gangster. He was an original gangster. Like that's how his life perceived him to be. So the character worked for him. But like guys like a Jay Lethal or Jonathan Gresham, that is basically wrestling purists. Like they just want to wrestle you. They don't need to be gangbangers and thugging and bugging out here and stuff like that. JTG and Shad, RIP to Shad, but they had to be like New York gangsters from Brooklyn to get over. And I don't think that even though the gimmick was nice, like is just like the stereotype of oh, these New York dudes with Tim boots and fucking white beaters and stuff like that. Like that shit is it's a dub for me. Like what I mean. Even though they got the character over, it's just like we don't need the character to be that way. Like JTG right now, he's not fucking out there wrestling in fucking baggy ass pants and Tim boots right now. He's out there and wrestling tights, fucking knee pads, and he's doing the damn thing. He's like doing mad great work on the indie scene right now. Why should it have been different in WWE? Um, People like Booker T, like his gimmick evolved over time, but like it seems like more of his white gimmicks, his quote unquote white gimmicks got over, like the King Booker or the royalty type deal, like he did in TNA with the main event mafia type deal. Got more over than like a GI Bro or the Harlem Heat character that he had, the Can You Dig It Sucker with Gold Dust. And it's just a thing. You know what I'm saying? It's really a thing. I mean, Vince McMahon got away with saying the word nigga on live pay per view to a white guy, and then fucking Booker T had the stereotype say, "Oh, I can't believe he just said that." Like, no, that's stupid, it's silly. I mean, John Cena got over with a whole rap gimmick career, and he got over. The only reason why he got over is because he was a white guy doing rapping. Max Caster, actually a black guy, actually fucking rapping, actually got bars, actually got music studio premise, and he's struggling to get over because we got snowflakes in the world and shit like that right now. So it's just difficult to see or convey, like why we gotta fucking be that way when it comes to our gimmicks and stuff like that. Why can't we have a good gimmick without it being a stereotype?
It depends if it's done well. So I'll give you a bad stereotype. For instance, do you remember the Colognes, the two Cologne brothers that were in WWE without
Yeah.
Carlito? I think it was his brother and Lito, right? And then like they just couldn't get over for whatever reason. So then they put him in those bull masks, and that got over even worse. So that's a example of like just bad stereotyping. And then like if you have like I guess like the Samoan people would be the ones who get it the worst, because then you'd have like a character like Umaga, who for whatever reason doesn't speak when you know damn well he was in three was the group 3 Minute Warning, so you know he can speak. So if it's bad, yes, but if it's good, no, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. Like there are stereotypes for a reason. Like Eddie Guerrero, with Latino heat, like I'm part Puerto Rican and I'm part black, that's something, that machismo, that whole machoism, that's a thing. So that's an example of good stereotype. Like Slick, if you remember in the 80s, playing a pimp and coming out with the one man gang, when you're a kid, you find it funny that he's singing Jive Soul Bro, but when you're like an adult, you realize that's kind of crappy. So yeah, it depends if the stereotype is good or bad. New Day is just not my thing, but that doesn't mean they're a bad stereotype. And the Hurt Business I like, but that doesn't mean they're a good stereotype. You know, it depends on. You have to take it character by character, man. You know what I mean?
How do I feel when racial stereotypes are used as a gimmick? Funny. I think stereotypes and tropes of different people and races is just something that wrestling has always done since I can remember. It's not something I like, especially when it's perpetuating negative things. But I mean, it's kind of a thing that we've done in society just in general. I don't think professional wrestling is any different than movies or television shows that have done a lot of the same things. But I do think that, yeah, I think maybe a lack of diversity in the creative and maybe companies wanting to have too much control or not really knowing anybody different from them really hurts the product. So I mean, we do have guys like Eddie Guerrero whose character was always just a stereotype, from lying, cheating, and stealing to Latino heat, just constantly so offensive. But we all loved him, and we all let that slide. And it's not like it's the worst thing in the world, but I mean, we can do better. And I think maybe the future of wrestling is headed towards doing better. But yeah, things like that. I mean, they work when you have an amazing and charismatic person, but even still, you got to wonder sometimes, can't we do better than that? Especially today when a lot of these issues are being called out.
Honestly, stereotypes don't really bother me that much, and I feel bad because in a way I feel like they should, but they don't. They don't, and the reason that they don't is because everybody gets it. Ain't nobody safe. It don't matter where you from, where you stay at. You getting stereotyped in professional wrestling. In professional wrestling, people I feel sorry for are the Japanese wrestlers. Honestly, the Japanese wrestlers get it worse than anybody. They in America, them cats can't catch a break. I mean, it's getting better now, but back in the day, boy, them Japanese wrestlers had it rough. Them the ones I feel sorry for. But to me, nah, stereotypes don't bother me. They everywhere and they gonna be everywhere, and that's just how it is. White guys can't dance. That's a stereotype. What else? Japanese wrestlers kick and spit mist all the time. That's a stereotype. It doesn't bother me. Everybody gets it, and that's just wrestling, I guess.
So I wish we were more progressive in character development instead of relying on these stereotypes. And then it gets tough for the black characters because a lot of them come out, as you would say, Swerve Scott was shucking and jiving. I was like, no, he wasn't. Now Rich Swann, he's shucking and jiving. But then a lot of it is just like, why can't they just be who they are as individuals? And there's so many unique, diverse different types of black people, whether you have MVP, who was the money man, who basically was Jim Jones, I think, and he's balling, or you have, you know, your Bobby Lashley, which is your strong man. I mean, I feel like it's really hard. It's a line to cross, and the crosses are like, to me, when you like, all of a sudden I'm gonna call Mark Henry the silverback, and he's a big giant monkey or whatnot. It's a dominant animal. I can see how you got there, but you don't realize the racial implications of what you're applying there. And you also have like other characters such as Razor Ramon, who is a white man portraying basically a Puerto Rican man, and who's some type of maybe a drug lord with gold chains and a toothpick, and it provides stereotypes. And you go like, huh, I don't know if this is right, but you know, as a wrestling viewer or as just a person of entertainment, at the time you never realize what you're watching. You just say, entertain me. What's going on here? Oh wow, this is crazy. You know, and then again, like goes back to maturity, and when you get older and you just open your eyes open up to going like, man, they shouldn't be doing that. Oh, that shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't be going on. Why is Triple H putting down Booker T and all this? And what's going on here? And you know, you just go through all the just all the changes that you go through, because you know we change every day and people evolve every day. You get more knowledge every day, and then, you know, the more information you get, the more you know, like, I can't think of the word right now, but you know, the more things are brought to light, I guess, and illuminated.
It's a fine line between what a stereotype and then like racism. This like it's something that it probably would need to be discussed for years before you can come to a consensus. But I think with more inclusion being there, we're getting more better representation. Because I mean, I remember as of late, I was watching an episode of Monday Night Raw, and I saw a wonderful package for the almighty Bobby Lashley, where it talks about what he did in his collegiate career, going up in the military and stuff like that. And that's a very positive light to paint somebody in. But then the problem is that there might be a demographic that does not relate to that. And it could be that demographic where they might feel more relatable to the person that came from the mean streets. I mean, you talk about WWE making Scott Hall play a Puerto Rican for whatever. Al Pacino played a Cuban in Scarface in one of the more prominent roles. So like this is something that is bigger than professional wrestling. It's been in the movies forever. I mean, people have been recast for years for roles that were supposed to be for people of color, but I don't know if we can. Manny, you come from a different country, so I'm pretty sure you have a different perspective and a relation than what Marcus and I might have. And Mike can answer the question a lot better than we can.
Yeah, but that's the thing about this type of conversation. I feel like you come in it one way, and then as you speak to others, our experiences will influence you, and then you start thinking back and you go, okay, maybe I was wrong at the beginning. Maybe my actual real feelings was laying dormant. Because if I recall, I was quite around the George Floyd murder. I was quite ignorant at that time, as like where I grew up, I don't see a lot of racial divide where I'm from. But then the moment, like 2 weeks later, then it just like my mind opened up and was like, I see it everywhere. I've just gotten so used to it happening that it doesn't faze me anymore. Much like when I was on painkillers, when you're on a certain dosage and you get used to it, you don't notice the pain anymore till the threshold gets a bit higher, and then you go, oh, what's that? I feel like during the George Floyd murder, everything about race got elevated, so you became more aware of it. Even though, like in the backbone, you got so used to it that it just kind of phased you, as in it was like you'd see it but you wouldn't notice it, in a way. So yeah, so for me, I agree with Marcus at the point where when I was younger, it didn't really bother me because it added to who they were as a person. But then as you become more aware of certain things, it's just like, yeah, I feel like there's more to a person than just where they're from.
I don't think it's. I don't think it's necessary. I just don't think like. All right, so I think like it's a. I think it's like it's cheap humor, and I'm just not. I'm just not into cheap humor at all. Because I feel that like when you have a platform when you have a platform like a WWE, like any of these big time pro wrestling platforms, like when you have a really big significant platform that has the means and the ends and the money to be able to afford quality writers and like producers and creative thinkers, I feel like there's really no excuse as to why you are using such cheap humor to get something or someone over, where you have the means and the ends of being able to bring in highly skilled creative talent to be able to develop something even with a lot more substance. It's embarrassing, bro. I remember when they did that whole gimmick with the Mexicools. I think it was back in like was it like 05, 06 or something like that, I believe. I could be a little bit off. But I remember when they did that gimmick with the Mexicools, and here I am sitting with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, with my girlfriend at the time, who is Mexican, and she's watching, Juventud, and she's watching, super crazy and all them, coming out on lawnmowers and whatnot and everything like that. Like, dude, that was embarrassing sitting with her, and she's like, "This is what you watch? Like, what the F is this? Do you watch this? You know what I'm saying?" And and it's like, how do you explain that? I mean, like, how do you explain that, or how do you justify that? Especially like when you have the kind of character that is very so anti-racism, anti-prejudice, like negative stereotypes, or that could be very harmful, but you indulge in this product, every week. So how do you explain that? So like that puts me in a really weird situation. Even though I wasn't a fan then, back when I still watch WrestleMania 6 and I watched Roddy Piper come out painted half black, that still makes me cringe so deep, man. Like watching that happen, because because it was a rib, like it was some like inside joke rib or whatever like that. And I think about like I would love to have known what the live audience was thinking when he came out like that. What even someone like the Black Canadians who were in the audience, what they felt when they saw that. Like, were there little kids who were like looking at their mom like, "What, mom? Why is he painted half black?" Or like, why does he look like that? Like, how do you explain it to your children? You know what I'm saying? So like, and I'm not trying to be like high moral with right now. I'm not, because I don't understand, like, pro wrestling is kind of wacky. But like I said though, like when you're talking about the WWF, the WWE, and we're talking about like them who are who is a multi-million-dollar billion-dollar company, they can more than afford. They have the means to be able to afford people who can provide insights and writing and storytelling that doesn't have to go the cheap route. Like you'd expect to see something like that in some like hillbilly, some hillbilly town that's like in Alabama, that don't know any better and don't have the means or anything, that they're trying to look for shock value, in their product because they need attention. But if you're the WWE, you don't need to create shock value, for attention. You already have the attention because your name speaks for itself. So why go in that direction? So yeah, so like I don't necessarily like it when it's being portrayed, when like those type of racial stereotypes are being portrayed in a very negative way to like put someone over. I appreciate it when it's being celebrated. When Jinder Mahal won the WWE Championship, at I think it was at Backlash back in the I can't remember, 17, I think it was. But it was when Jinder Mahal won the WWE Championship at Backlash in Chicago. I was there in Chicago. That SmackDown, when they celebrated him, they brought out all like the traditional Indian dancers and the music and the pomp and circumstance and all that stuff and everything. That was beautiful. Like, I love that. Like, I seriously, I remember like watching that, like, this is amazing. And I think because like my wife and I, we had gone to India not too long before that. We had gone to India that Christmas, and we were there for 2 weeks, and taking in all that culture was beautiful. And so, like, seeing that take place on SmackDown, where that was a celebration of heritage, a celebration of culture. That's what I'm talking about right there. Like, that was done. He was a heel, but it was still done in a very tasteful way, which was great, because what that did, it took the kid in the audience who was watching either at home or live in the attendance. It took that kid and it put them in the position to like want to learn more about that culture and about that heritage. You know what I mean? It wasn't desecrating it. It wasn't being disrespectful. It wasn't mocking it. It was putting the audience in a position where they may not have known about like the traditional garb and all and the dancing and everything like that. It put them in a position to actually want to learn more about it, because they'll always associate whatever they learn about India, whatever they may learn about the heritage, they'll always associate it with Jinder Mahal in the WWE. Like, that'll always be like their building ground. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you can do these things in terms of like, going into exploring these cultural outlets and being able to really highlight them, but do it in a way where it's more beneficial and more fruitful and substantial for the viewer, not just mocking them for the sake of just getting a cheap laugh or a cheap rise out of some some internet dweebs, for a few minutes. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a right way of doing things. There's a right way of doing things. There's a wrong way of doing things, and that wrong way that can really turn people off. Because I'm telling you, like, after that happened with the Mexicals, Christine was like, I'm kind of cool on this now. I don't need to really watch. Now, granted, she does watch with me, like when the big shows come on and she's in the room with me, she will watch. But that left a bad taste in her mouth. And even to this day, she still sometimes bring it up where she's like, remember when they did that lawnmower BS with the Mexicals? And I'm like, yeah. So that resonates. But so it's like, if you want things to resonate, let it resonate for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons.
We will end it here for the end of part 2. We'll be back with part 3, where we answer how important is proper representation to you. And thanks for watching, guys.
That question.
Peace.